Yo, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of The Sauce. Continuing on with college football week 13, Friday night. Got 3 games here. Gonna go through all 3 in this video. Let's do it.
Welcome to The Sauce. The Sauce. Sauce. Hey, get the sauce.
First up, we got Temple on the road at UTSA. Roadrunners laying 16.5 points at home, total sitting at 55.5. Let's get into this one, and we'll start with the Temple offense against the UTSA defense. At first glance, yeah, the Temple offensive numbers are looking pretty rough, and I'm not saying they're not rough. I'm just saying since they made the quarterback change, the passing offense is slightly better. This is an offense that wants to throw the ball, and since they switched over to Evan Simon at quarterback, they have been more efficient, and it's actually not a terrible matchup for them because this UTSA defense is extremely one-dimensional. They're excellent against the run, 16th in the country in yards per carry, 3rd in success rate per rush. They struggle against the pass, though. 119th in the country in yards per pass attempt, 38th in success rate per dropback is good, but 106th in effective pass. And as I just said before, Temple is an offense that wants to throw the ball. They're 31st in pass frequency. Now, like I said before, Temple started off the season with Forrest Brock at quarterback for the first 2 games. In week 3, we saw Evan Simon take over, and we saw 3 games in a row where Temple's passing attack looked pretty good. In those 3 games, weeks 3, 4, and 5, 226.7 passing yards per game, 8.3 yards per attempt. So we have seen a stretch where this Temple passing attack looked pretty good with Evan Simon at quarterback. He did get injured in there, missed a game. In the 4 games since he's been back, it hasn't been quite as good, but there's a road game at Tulane in there. There's a road game at ECU in there. Tough places to go throw. If you isolate it to just Evan Simon's games against bad pass defense, there's 4 starts in there, 247.5 passing yards per game, 7.35 yards per attempt, 43.7% success rate per dropback. So this is a somewhat capable passing attack. And this Temple team, I know they're 3-7. Everyone perceives them to be terrible. And yeah, they're pretty bad. But if you isolate it to just the Evan Simon games, they're 3-4 straight up, 4-3 against the spread. In the 3 games Forrest Brock played, they're 0-3, 1-2. So when Evan Simon's at quarterback, I keep repeating this Temple team isn't nearly as bad as you think. And like I said before, this UTSA pass defense isn't very good. I mean, in their last 6 games, they're allowing over 301 passing yards per game, 7.67 yards per attempt. Success rate does look good, which is huge. But I mean, look at the opponents. ECU, that was with Jake Garcia at quarterback before they made the switch. Rice, that offense is terrible. FAU, one of the worst offenses in the country. Tulsa, one of the worst offenses in the country. Memphis and North Texas are in there. But as a whole, you look at this graphic, and UTSA is putting up bad numbers against the pass against some bad offenses. So I really think Temple, with Evan Simon at quarterback, is going to be able to throw the ball in this game. The strength of this Roadrunner defense has been stopping the run. Look at their numbers against the run in those same last 6 games. Under 93 rushing yards allowed per game, 3.26 yards per carry. Here's the problem with that. Temple doesn't run the ball. All they do is throw it. They're a pass-first offense, so I know it sounds crazy. I think Temple's going to make some throws, score some points in this game. But then we flip things over to the other side, and this is where the value shifts dramatically over to UTSA. Now, you might be looking at this graphic thinking, I don't get it. How? These 2 units look pretty evenly matched. Yeah, I mean, according to this graphic, they're pretty close. I mean, UTSA is a pass-first offense. They're 76th in yards per pass attempt, 75th in success rate per dropback, 65th in effective pass. Temple actually has some decent numbers against the pass. So how is this such a favorable matchup for the UTSA offense? Well, here's the thing. It's not UTSA's season-long offensive numbers that give them the edge here, even though Owen McCown's passing numbers on the year are fine. Over 2,700 yards, 7.1 yards per attempt, 22 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. But what I'm really looking at is right here. This game is at home in the Alamo Dome, and this offense just goes nuts there. In their home games this year, they're averaging over 326 passing yards per game, 47.9% success rate per dropback, 8.34 yards per pass attempt. You can see on the left side of this graphic that actually the passing attack hasn't even really been that good away from the Alamo Dome. But for whatever reason in this dome, Owen McCown just goes nuts. This turns into a very dangerous passing attack. So you might look at Temple's numbers against the pass, and they look pretty good. I mean, in their last 5 games, 7.76 yards per attempt isn't great. 38.4% success rate per dropback is solid. It's against UConn, Tulsa, ECU, Tulane's a good opponent, and FAU is terrible offense. This is on the road in the Alamo Dome where Owen McCown just goes nuts. This passing attack, this Roadrunner passing attack for some reason just goes off in this place. So I don't trust this Temple defense. I mean, even if you look at their last 2 road games against ECU and Tulane, these are some bad numbers against the pass. Now you put them in the Alamo Dome. I like the Roadrunner offense to go nuts here. Oh, McCown's on a hot streak too. 4 great games in a row. Yeah, Roadrunners are going to put up some points in this game. So where does that leave me in terms of placing a bet? Well, like I said, I like UTSA to score. I don't know if I want to lay 16.5 though. So the way that I would go is either the over or the UTSA team total over. You know what? Let me look it up for you right here. Should have had this ready. One second. Haven't placed this yet, but I'm down to bet this one. I was still looking at some other stuff. 1 second. Team total, team props, team total. 1 sec. 36.5. Okay. So UTSA team total over 36.5 or just the full game over 55.5. I probably like slightly more because like I said, with Evan Simon at quarterback, I don't hate the Temple offense. So in the Dome, I'm expecting points over 55.5. Big Ten up next. We got Purdue on the road at Michigan State. Sparty Lane 13.5. I actually see a couple 14s out there, but for the most part, it's 13.5. Totals in at 48.5 pretty much across the board. Take a quick look at the pie charts, and according to the data, action's coming in on the Purdue side. Over 70% of the tickets, over 60% of the money coming in on the Boilermakers. Take it with a grain of salt. So let's get into this matchup, and to be honest, this is a really tough one to get a feel for. We'll start with the Purdue offense against the Michigan State defense. The reason, let me start by saying, the reason it's such a tough game to handicap is these two teams, they play such extremities in the Big Ten. For example, Michigan State played Oregon, Iowa, Ohio State, Michigan, Indiana, all in a row. So it's kind of tough to get a feel. I mean, you look at these numbers, look at the Michigan State defensive numbers here. I mean, they're not terrible. 61st in yards per play, 60th in success rate, 53rd in yards per carry allowed, 31st in success rate per rush. But if you take into consideration the schedule that they've just been through, I mean, does that mean that this defense is significantly better than this? I really don't know how to handicap it because they've played such extreme opponents. We'll get into it. They're matched up against a Purdue offense. And here's the thing. You can say almost the same exact thing about Purdue. Look at their offensive numbers, 97th in yards per play, 96th in success rate. Rushing numbers actually don't look too bad. Passing numbers, they look pretty bad. So let's start with the Michigan State defense. Their numbers on the year. They're allowing 25.5 points per game, 5.4 yards per play. That's actually not terrible, 40.2% success rate. Look what happens if you take out Ohio State, Oregon, Indiana. 3 elite offenses. They're allowing less than 20 points per game, 4.87 yards per play, 37% success rate. So is this Michigan State defense good? I mean, that's not an accurate way to handicap football games. You can't remove data points, but am I going to fault Michigan State defensively because they couldn't handle Oregon's offense or Ohio State or Indiana, who's hanging 45 on everybody? It's a really tough matchup. I was looking at this one for a while. And then check this out. It's the exact same thing on the other side. So we got Purdue's offense, right? In their last 4 games, they're averaging 7.5 points per game, 4.76 yards per play. Terrible offensive numbers in their last 4. Look at the opponents. Oregon, Ohio State, Penn State, and even Northwestern probably has a top 25 defense. So are we really going to sit here and be like, Purdue's offense is absolute garbage because they couldn't score points on Oregon, Ohio State, and Penn State? I mean, that sounds kind of crazy. You can actually make the argument that last time the Purdue offense saw a defense that wasn't ranked in the top 25, it was the Illinois game in week 7. They scored 49 points on the road and took Illinois to overtime. They went for 2 to win it and lost. Scored 49 points in the game. So, I mean, is this Purdue offense secretly kind of good? They just been through the gauntlet the last 4 games, and now that they're seeing a Michigan State defense that isn't quite on the level of Ohio State and Penn State and Oregon and even Northwestern, now the Purdue offense is going to show up. I mean, it really doesn't sound crazy. Michigan State doesn't have much of a pass rush. They're 124th in pressure rate, 103rd in sack rate, 126th in pass rush grade. Hudson Card has shown us you can trust him if you give him a clean pocket. He's got great numbers from a clean pocket. He should have clean pockets to throw from in this game. So truly, I have no idea on this side of the ball. You could tell me, hey, Purdue's offense is finally seeing a mediocre defense. Hudson Card from a clean pocket, he's going to make throws, and I'll understand it. But you could also say, hey, this Michigan State defense is actually good. They've just been through the gauntlet, and now they're going to show you that they're actually a good defense against I mean, I would see that also. Both of those narratives make sense to me. So I truly don't have, I mean, if you put a gun to my head and force me to make a guess, I'd say Hudson Card is probably able to make some throws and Purdue can put up some points in this game. But then we get to the other side, and honestly, it's just as confusing on this side. So you look at the Michigan State offense against the Purdue defense. Obviously, Michigan State has the advantage here. Not that Michigan State's setting the world on fire offensively, but again, look at their schedule. But on the season, they're 97th in yards per play, 80th in success rate. Passing numbers, okay. Rushing numbers, a little disappointing. Purdue defensively, one of the worst in the country, certainly the worst in the Big Ten. 133rd in in yards per play, 123rd in success rate. Look at their numbers against the pass, 133rd, 132nd, 130th. Now, here's where it gets tough in terms of making a prediction. You pull up Aiden Childs' numbers on the year, and obviously it doesn't look that great. Over 2,100 yards, 7.8 yards per attempt, 10 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. Certainly doesn't look good at all. But look at their schedule from weeks 5 to 10. This is crazy. All these games were consecutive. All these games were in a row. Ohio State, Oregon, Iowa, Michigan, Indiana, consecutively in a row. That's crazy. And when you're looking at the Michigan State passing numbers in that gauntlet of a schedule, they actually look all right. 8.12 yards per attempt, 212.8 passing yards per game, 42% success rate per dropback. I'm looking at these numbers and I'm like, a freshman quarterback against those 5 defenses, they might all be top 10, top 15 defenses in the country. I actually like this for Aiden Childs. In fact, I'm kind of impressed by it. So what did I do? Last week, Michigan State plays Illinois, and I said, finally, Aiden Childs is seeing a defense that he can actually make plays on. Finally, this kid sees a bad defense. So I took Michigan State's team total over. He didn't play well at all. 6.4 yards per attempt, success rate per dropback below 30%. He looked better against Ohio State and Oregon and Michigan than he did against Illinois. So I lost that bet. I had a good Saturday, but that was one of my losses. So I don't know what to think. I mean, you could say that game was on the road in Illinois. Now they're back home in East Lansing against a Purdue defense that's way worse than Illinois. Illinois doesn't have a great defense. Purdue makes them look like a great defense. In their last 7 games, this is a 7-game sample size. Granted, they've played a tough schedule, but they're allowing over 305 passing yards per game, over 10.1 yards per attempt, 56.7% success rate per dropback. This Purdue pass defense is terrible. So I have that same line of thinking. Aiden Childs finally against a bad defense. Purdue's terrible. He's at home. I think he's going to play well because I was watching this kid play well against some of the best defenses in the country. So against one of the worst defenses in the country, I think Aiden Childs is going to go off. Disclaimer, as I just said, I bet the same angle last week and it failed. So I really don't know what to think if I'm being honest. Now, Michigan State should also be able to run the ball in this game. A lot of people forgot because they've played so many tough defenses. Michigan State has 2 good RBs. They got Lynch Adams, who transferred in. They also got Nate Carter. They have 2 good running backs there at Michigan State. And also Aiden Childs is an athlete. So they should also be able to run the ball on Purdue. I mean, on paper, this should be the spot we finally see this Michigan State offense explode. I'm just a little hesitant to back it because I literally bet on that last week and they didn't make it. I had team total over 22.5. They got smoked. So I guess if you put a gun to my head and force me to bet this game, I'd probably say over or Michigan State team total over, or maybe even Michigan State minus the points. I'm a little worried about Hudson Card making throws from a clean pocket. He has shown us he can do that. So I guess give me over 48.5. I'll let you know on the live show if I bet it, but I could say probably not gonna bet this one. Next game. So I'm actually gonna save this last game for the live show. I haven't had much of a feel for San Jose State this season. I mean, at first glance, UNLV should score as many points as they want here, but San Jose State's sneaky. That offense is sneaky, so I don't know. We'll talk about it on the live show. It's almost 2 a.m, so I need to get this video uploaded to get some sleep. So yeah, we'll talk about it tomorrow on the live show, 4 p.m. Eastern time. See y'all then.